Jæja, góðan daginn allir. Nú að fara að byrja á Azure Monitor fyrirlestri. Hún Simon Tóttir mun fara aðeins yfir það og leiða okkur í sannleikanum hvernig við getum nýtt Azure Monitor á sem besta hátt og mögulega kannski einhvers svona tips and tricks. Þannig að ég ætla bara að gefa henni orðið. Simon, thank you for joining us. I'll just give you the word and then you can start.
Perfect.
Any presentations that I can show?
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Then we can get started. Hello everyone, my name is Simona Toder. I'm working as a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. So what I'm doing on a daily basis is basically talking to partners, help them build their solutions on top of Azure, migrate to Azure, make sure that this cloud adoption process is a smooth one. For today's session, we are going to talk about Azure Monitoring. So what tools are we providing? How can we help you monitor your workloads on Azure? And also discuss a little bit on best practices, what things you should consider, what type of solutions we have available, and what's the best way to set it up. We're going to allocate a few minutes at the end for questions, so please feel free to write in the chat any questions that you might have during the presentation, and we will answer those at the end. Okay, so when we are talking about monitoring on Azure, we are going to discuss in-depth Azure Monitor. So this is our default service for enabling monitoring on Azure. And here we are talking about monitoring both Azure environments, but on-premise as well. So we want to have full flexibility, to have a service to be able to help you monitor your workloads no matter where those workloads are. Azure Monitor enables you to collect, analyze, and act on the telemetry that is gathered. So you will have this unified monitoring where you can gather metrics, you can gather logs, and based on that data, you will be able to act accordingly, but also take advantage of our advanced diagnostics and analytics that is using behind the scene machine learning capabilities. This is on the Azure side, but we also understand that you will want to integrate Azure Monitor with other tools, or maybe you have specific requirements, and we want to fully support that and easily integrate Azure Monitor with other tools. So you'll see that it's very easy to integrate Azure Monitor and monitoring the workloads in a DevOps setup, so easily integrated in it in a CI/CD. When we are talking about issue management, you will be able to create different alerts, take different actions based on those alerts, and for instance, okay, I want to create a ticket or open an issue somewhere. So a lot of flexibility on how you can integrate Azure Monitor with third parties. I'm going to discuss later what type of workflows we have out of the box and what options do you have. Just to give you an overview on what Azure Monitor is all about. So as I mentioned, you will be able to gather metrics and logs. And you can collect this data from applications, from OS, from Azure resources, Azure subscription, Azure tenant, anything in the context of Azure. On top of that, we also have custom sources. So for instance, if you have an application which is running on-premise on a VM and you want to collect the logs from that application, you have that option with Azure Monitor as well. So all you need to do is specify, okay, this is the path to the file where this application is writing the logs, and Azure Monitor will take care of parsing that file, the logs, and you will be able to see the logs and query, create alerts, and so on from Azure portal. So once you gather all this data, you have different options. In terms of data insights, we have application insights to help you provide an overview of what's happening at the application level. We have insights on containers. We have insights for VMs. So all these are out of the box in Azure Monitor in Azure portal. If you want something more than that, we have monitoring solutions that you can install and add into Azure Monitor. So if you are interested, okay, I'm interested in monitoring the networking part, you will see that you have a bunch of monitoring solutions that you can choose from. In terms of visualization, since you are gathering a lot of data, you will want to easily visualize it. We have Azure dashboards. So this is very easy to use, and it's something that we provide also in Azure Monitor. So we provide out of the box some dashboards. You can create your own dashboards if that's not enough. You can leverage workbooks. We didn't want you to spend so much time in creating the queries and defining, okay, what metrics do I want to visualize. So we created these workbooks that you can use. So you don't need to spend time in building the dashboards. If you want something more complex, of course, you can use all the data and visualize it in Power BI or other tools. In terms of data analyzing, it's very important to mention here when you are going to use Azure Monitor, you are required to have a log analytics workspace. What this is all about, you can see this log analytics workspace as a centralized hub where all the data is collected. Since all the data is going to be collected in that workspace, it's very easy to query and filter it. We have KQL, so custom query language, that will enable you to query all the data you have available and stored in a log analytics workspace. So you have full flexibility on what data you want to check. You can use different conditions, and you can do quite complex querying. In terms of responses, let's say, okay, I'm monitoring my workloads, but I want to know if an issue arises or if something is wrong. So you can create different alerts. You will be able to see, okay, if a VM reaches a specific threshold, I want to be notified. So with these alerts, you can get different notifications. You have the option to take different actions like trigger a runbook, trigger a PowerShell script, or other actions. We are going to talk a little bit more in depth about that later. In terms of integration, if you want to integrate all the data that you have collected with third-party tools, so you have some workflows in mind, you can easily do that by using Logic Apps or Event Hub for scheming the data. In terms of APIs, we have different APIs that you can where you can access and do requests on Azure Monitor. So I mentioned all this data, and let me cover a little bit more in depth what are the differences between metrics and logs and what you can do with each one of those. So first of all, keep in mind you can collect data from application, from OS, VMs, a bunch of resources. So it's up to you to define what data you want to gather. And based on that, you have metrics. So these metrics, you can consider numerical values that describe the system at a particular point in time. For instance, for sure, you'll want to monitor the CPU. So that would be one metric. In terms of characteristics, we are gathering these metrics, 1 minute frequency. It's full customizable for how long are you going to retain the data. So since you are storing this data, you are paying for it. So you will want to check, okay, for how long do I want to store the data? For how long do I want to pay for it? So the metrics will help you track the performance of a resource. Either we are talking about a VM, a website, a logic app, whatever. You'll have the option to pin different dashboards to easily check these metrics. You will be able to configure metric alerts. So you will have a notification if something goes wrong, or you can have an automated action when a metric crosses the threshold. Auto-scaling is another thing that it's important to mention here. So you can easily increase or decrease the resources based on a metric crossing a specific threshold. So here comes in handy the power of cloud. Based on your needs, easily auto-scale. I mentioned earlier integration, Event Hub. So you can stream the metrics to Event Hub. And if you want, you can route them to Azure Stream Analytics or other external systems. Again, full flexibility in meeting your requirements. And another thing, compliance or auditing. You can achieve the performance or the health history of your resources for compliance, auditing, or just reporting purposes. So those were metrics. Logs, these are different kind of data. So these are different records with different properties. So you can collect data from within Azure or from on-premise resources. So what type of logs are we talking about? You might already be familiar with activity logs. So every action that you are taking into Azure, you will be able to see those actions in activity logs. So those are a type of logs. So information on the configuration of a specific resource, what type of actions were done, just to give you some insights on operations and how your teams are taking actions. Another logging can be achieved by using agents. So you can install agents on VMs and send telemetry from guest OS to Azure Monitor, and from there do further analysis. For applications, I mentioned you can collect data and have it in application insights. You can collect data and provide insights into a particular application or service by using different monitoring solutions. So what you can do with them? Same scenario as with metrics, you have the option to analyze by using log analytics. So you can leverage KQL to filter the data, do different queries, and give better insights in what's happening in your environment. The same with rules, with alert rules. So you can configure those alerts to take different actions. Or if you want to build in specific workflows based on the log data, you can do that with logic apps. Another common med scenario, exporting the data to Power BI for visualization. This depends on what you're comfortable with. If you are already using Power BI, you probably will want to integrate all the data from Azure Monitor to Power BI. if you're just getting started and not very familiar with Power BI, Azure dashboards or workbooks should be enough. I put here all the resources. What type of data you can gather from what resources, and how you can leverage those. So we are going to discuss a little bit more in depth on the options to monitor VMs, options to monitor applications. So when we are talking about VMs, so collecting data from at guest OS level, we have three options. So we have Diagnostic Extensions. This is going to provide some basic monitoring by collecting different logs and performance data. Another option is the Log Analytics Agent. So if you are looking for something more comprehensive and the data provided by the Diagnostic Extension is not enough, you can install the agent to collect more data and customize what type of data you are collecting. And the third one is the Dependency Agent. So by installing this agent, you will be able to have an overview on the connection between VMs. So you will get the full picture of how the VMs are related to each other, how they are communicating, and give you a better understanding. Okay, how my application is running, how it's distributed on different resources, and so on. In terms of applications, we have application insights. So for this one, you will need to install a small package, which will be in charge of collecting the metrics, logs, and sending those to Azure Monitor. What type of information you are going to get here? Information about page views, different requests, different exceptions, what was the performance of the application, and of course, other scenarios that you can detect by using the query language and filtering the data that you gathered. I mentioned integration with external tools, so I put together this slide. We also have the link here on different external tools that we have supported. So you can get more information how you can integrate Azure Monitor with each one of these tools. Yeah, so here I wanted to talk a little bit about each of these options that you have on monitoring your workloads, because there are small differences, and depending on your needs, you might want to opt for to go for one or not. So I mentioned one of the options to monitor VMs is by using the Diagnostic Extension. To give you more details about this. So by default, Azure Monitor collects host level metrics like CPU utilization, disk, network usage for all VMs without installing any additional software. But if you want more insights into the VM, so if you want to collect guest level metrics, logs, and other diagnostic data, you can do that by using the Azure Diagnostics Extension. So once you have this extension added, you can use the data. You can have it in Azure Monitor. You can send data to application insights. You can store it in an Azure storage. Again, it's going to depend on your needs and what exactly do you need to do with all that data. But again, you have a lot of options and full flexibility. Main use cases, of course, collecting extra metrics and logs. And important point here to add, if you install the Diagnostic Extension, you will be able to easily investigate VM boot issues. So this is an extra information that you get by using the extension. I put here what type of data you can collect. So mentioning crash dumps, .NET application output logs, different requests that failed if you're using IIS. So yeah, different type of data depending on your scenario. About Log Analytics Agent, so this one provides more advanced monitoring. It will collect logs and performance data from either VMs in Azure, other clouds, or on-premise. So this is important to mention. By default, the data is collected into the Log Analytics workspace, and from there you can take advantage of all the features available in Azure Monitor and KQL. Main use cases, hybrid environments. So if you are if you have workloads both on Azure and on-premise, Azure Monitor is the way to go to provide a holistic overview and a monitoring solution for all your workloads, no matter where they are. You'll have that consistency since you will have all those scenarios enabled for your workloads either on-premise or on Azure. And on top of that, you will be able to use different Azure Monitor solutions. So as I mentioned earlier, you can install different solutions in Azure Monitor, and you will see that a lot of those monitoring solutions will require to have the Log Analytics agent installed, because that's the way. This is how we are able to gather the data from the VM required for that particular solution. You will see, and I'm going to talk about that later. If we are talking about update management or change tracking, you will need the Log Analytics agent. The last one is the Dependency Agent. If you are familiar with Servke Map, so that is developed as a part of that solution. So you need to install the agent to be able to get that overview and dependencies on the VMs. So what we are doing is basically collecting discovered data about the processes running on the VMs and the external process dependencies, and based on that, we are going to provide a map to easily see those dependencies. So in this slide, you can see what type of data you can collect with each one of these options, and you can make the decision. Okay, what would be the best option based on my case? Yeah. So I mentioned that you are going to need a Log Analytics workspace to get started with Azure Monitor. You will see that you will be able to, you will need to configure that Log Analytics workspace with the data sources. So from where are you gathering the data, and what type of data you are gathering? So what are the data sources? And here you have different performance counters that you can choose from: custom logs, IIS logs, syslog, event logs. And this is something that you need to configure when you are getting started. So this would be the view on a Log Analytics workspace. You need to go to advanced settings, and from there you need to select, okay, what type of data I want to configure. I want to collect and use. Keep in mind that by default it's very easy to check everything. Okay, I want to collect all type of data, but it's not really like that, because you are paying for the data that you are collecting and storing, right? So make sure that you are configuring these data sources with all the information that it's really required. For instance, you have here the Windows event logs. You see that you can collect different logs, but also error warnings and information. So errors, for sure, you are going to want to monitor. Warnings maybe in specific cases, but information maybe something that you should consider skipping. Again, it's going to depend on your cases and on your scenario, but keep in mind to try to collect only the data that you really need. I put here some links to give you an example of what type of information we are providing out of the box on the VM monitoring. You will see that you have performance charts and the dependency map to see that overview on how the VMs are interconnected. We have different workbooks. This is a link to the GitHub repository, so a bunch of workbooks that you can use, and it will provide an out-of-the-box dashboard. In terms of log queries, KQL can get quite complex in terms of querying. So I pasted a link to the documentation, and you can see some examples and how to get started. To discuss a little bit on what type of services we have and some solutions that you should consider when monitoring your workloads. So we have, one of it is Azure Agent Health. So what is this all about? As I mentioned, you will most probably go for the monitoring agent, either because you want comprehensive data collection to provide further insights on your workloads, or either that you are using different monitoring solutions which will require an agent. Most probably in the end you will have the agent installed on the VMs. With Agent Health, you will be able to see what is the status of those agents on the VMs. So you will be able to see, okay, are those agents up and running on the VM? Everything is okay. Are they reporting back to Log Analytics workspace? Is the data gathered and all that? So you will have that overview by using the Agent Health. On top of that, you will be able to get insights into the health and performance and availability of those agents by using KQL. So here are some examples on queries that you can do to give you some insights. Okay, how many agents are up and running? Okay, one VM is down. What happened there? Let's investigate. So yeah, that would be one. Another thing, I mentioned application insights quite a lot, and this is very, very important. If you are having applications, of course, application insights is the way to go. How exactly are you going to use it, and what is this all about? First of all, it supports .NET, Node.js, and other languages. It doesn't matter if that application is hosted on-premise or in cloud. You can use application insights anyway. Why do you need application insights? This is the way to go in order to easily detect performance issues, different anomalies. It will help you also in identifying different issues, but also debugging. And easily understand, okay, what's happening in my application, what failed, why this request took so long. So it would be very, very easy to check if there is an issue with your application or not. How exactly does it work? So it will require a small installation package that you will need to install, and that one will be in charge of monitoring your application and sending the telemetry data to Azure Monitor. What is being monitored? Giving here some examples: request rates, response times, different failures, exceptions. We also are able to provide insights in how the application is used, in terms of, okay, the page views, how the users are using our application, information about the session, and all that. Important to mention here is that for application insights, you have two options. So yeah, this I already mentioned. Yeah, So for this one, you have two options in terms of installations. So one way is at runtime. So this one will provide information about the system performance counters, dependencies, detailed exceptions, requests, and different exceptions. But if you want more in-depth information, if you want to be able to trace the logs, to be able to debug, okay, this is what went wrong, this was the call that generated this exception, you will want to consider application insights that needs to be added at development time. So what does this mean? You will need to integrate application insights related code in your application. So in that way, it will give you more flexibility in what exactly you want to track and collect about how your application is used, or how to easily identify issues. Yeah. So monitoring, you will be able to see all that data in different dashboards. So you'll be able to see the performance, the dependencies, the failures that were generated in a specific time frame. You'll also be able to see, okay, what were the slowest requests, what were the most failing requests, and based on that, take different actions. Detecting and diagnose different issues. So you'll be able to correlate the failures with exceptions. We have different options in terms of how you can further analyze the data that you are collecting. So you can get different snapshots of the tracing. You will be able to use and examine what code generated those errors. So we have different features that you can leverage in application insights. On top of that, yeah, as I mentioned, you can integrate custom telemetry by adding application insights in your application code. Further ideas on integrations. As I mentioned earlier, you can use logic apps. You have different workflows that you can add. You can export the data to different tools and other scenarios. On the best practices here, and something that you should consider when we are talking about monitoring and monitoring at scale, especially, are these things. First of all, in terms of configuration, you will want to enable monitoring at scale. So you will want to be able to do this automatically. You don't want to add VM by VM or application by application every time you are deploying something new. So you will want to have an automatic approach to this. And here we can discuss about ARM templates, we can discuss about PowerShell scripts, whatever you are comfortable with. Of course, I would suggest to go with ARM templates, but it's going to depend on your scenarios. Make sure you have some automation in place. On top of that, make sure that you integrate monitoring as part of your CI/CD. So as soon as you're deploying something, you also add that resource to be monitored and add different configuration to it. In terms of management, very, very important. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's Azure policies. So with Azure policies, you can enforce specific rules at a scope. So that scope can be a resource group, subscription level or management group level. So you will be able to see the compliance and which resources are compliant with the policies, with the rules that you set in place. I would advise to use policies to enable monitoring. You will see, if you check in Azure portal, you will see that there are a bunch of policies already built in and available for you for Azure Monitor. And on top of that, we have different initiatives. So an initiative is a bunch of policies put together. They are targeting a specific scope, so you don't need to apply policy by policy. You just assign one initiative once, and all those rules will be enforced. So on top of my mind is monitoring with Security Center. So you'll see there are a lot of policies on that regard, but also initiatives and policies. Okay, if a new VM is created, automatically install the monitoring agent on it. So that would be just one example. On top of that, you can create your own custom policies to help your operation teams and make sure that you have this center of excellency in terms of monitoring and operations. As a partner, or if you are managing multiple customers, of course you will want to use Azure Lighthouse to fully to have that overview across all your customers and be able to get some insights and have those monitoring dashboards across all your customers to easily identify what's the status on the workloads on specific customers. On visualization, I think I talked quite a lot about this, but a takeaway would be, if you didn't try workbooks till now, please take a look. You'll see they are very, very useful, and it's the easiest and quickest way to actually generate dashboards without writing queries and defining the logs and metrics by yourself. So please leverage what we have open source and integrate in your Azure Monitor. In terms of operations, you have different options in terms of alerting and leveraging those to take further actions once a problem was identified. We are going to discuss about that few slides later. Some ideas in reducing the data collection. I mentioned earlier that make sure that you're gathering only the data that you need. And here are some observations observations in the data that you might want to consider if you really want to collect it. You'll see, you have here links on each one of the sources, and you can read more on what we are suggesting when configuring the data that you can collect. Just to give you some ideas in log analytics workspace and what type of queries you can gather. So for instance, in application insights, you can see you can get requests, traces, page views, and others. From metrics, you can get performance. From agents, you can get the heartbeat, as I mentioned earlier, and different other events. So here are some examples on how you can use KQL to gather the data collected. For instance, this one will generate all the events all the error events that are in syslog or event log. Here, how many, what is the heartbeat of the agents, and how many agents are up and running, and of course, on top. It can get quite complex. So when we are talking about KQL, it can be something very, very simple, like, okay, what is the performance? Or it can get quite complex, where you can have different, where you can query different tables, you can do joint queries, different conditions, and yeah, you have a lot of options here. So you can make it as simple or as complicated as you want when you are using KQL and leveraging the queries. Yeah, so the alerts, so you will want to see, okay, what's happening in my application, what issues rise, what are the steps that we should take in this case, what should we do when an issue arises. And for this one, we have alerts. So you can create these alerts on the metrics or on the logs that you collected or on different queries results. All you need to do is write the alert rule, where you capture, okay, what is the target, what is the criteria for alerting. For instance, an alert rule can be okay, if CPU is over 70%, do something. And you have this criteria where you can say, okay, the CPU percentage more than 70%, or server response time is bigger than, I don't know, 4 milliseconds. So you can customize and put there whatever you want. You have the option to set a severity of the alert. So you decide, okay, how important and how severe is this alert, and on top of that, what is the what is the action. So you can set up a specific action to be taken when the alert is fired. More ideas on what type of alerts and what type of actions you can take. So when an alert is triggered, you can set it up to do a simple notification. Okay, receive an email or an SMS. This alert was triggered, so we have a problem here. We have Logic App workflows. So if you want to integrate in with Azure boards or Jira, and you want to create a specific ticket, you can do that as well. ITSM connectors ITSM integration with AD authentication. These are the scenarios that can easily be set in place. Auto healing, auto remediation, also auto scaling. So okay, this alert was triggered, so automatically run this runbook. In terms of operations, we have alert suppression. So you can, if you want to skip a specific resource group, so you have that option. Or if you have a bunch of alerts, you will want to easily trigger. You'll want to easily see, okay, what is the root cause? Suddenly 100 alerts were fired. You will get lost among them. So we have these smart alert groups where we identify, we are using different algorithms behind the scene to identify, okay, these alerts were triggered at the same time. We see some dependencies and some correlation. We put together these alerts in one group because we think that they have the same root cause. So if you fix the cause, all these alerts won't be needed. Yeah, so I think I have, okay. A few more things that I want to cover on the monitoring side. So we have Azure Update Management. This is a little bit strange. It's not part of Azure Monitor. It's part of an automation account, but it's something that can be used for monitoring and taking care of your workloads. So I would put it under the Azure Monitoring umbrella. So what this is all about, with update management, you will be able to check the update status of your servers. So you will be able to see, okay, are my VMs up to date in terms of updates, in terms of patching? It doesn't matter if we are talking about VMs on Azure, other clouds, or on-premise. So you can use update management for VMs from wherever. And you, beside the fact that you have this overview, okay, this VM is missing some updates, you will be able to deploy those updates from update management. So you will be able to set up a scheduler or just select the right VM and configure what updates you want to be made on that VM. You will be able to see the update compliance across your environment and easily see, okay, what's the status of my VMs. This is one of the services and the solutions that I was talking. Yeah, you will need a monitoring agent installed. So if you want to use update management, you will need to install the monitoring agent on it, since it's part of being able to do the patching and the updates. Checking, another important one, in my opinion, you will be able to see what changed in your environment. So here we are talking about tracking changes in Windows, Linux software, different files, registry keys, services, or daemons. Again, it will require the monitoring agent. Change tracking is part of an automation account, so just to know where you can add it. And you'll have that overview. Okay, what happened in the what changed in the last 24 hours? So you can select if you're interested in software, in files, or everything, and you will be able to see what was the change, what was the status of that file before and after the change. So what are the differences? Oh, it comes, I think it comes quite in handy. So it's something that you should definitely consider. Security Center, as I mentioned, you have a lot of options to integrate monitoring your workloads and have an overview in Security Center as well, and get some extra information. With Security Center, you will get the security state across your workload. So you will be able to easily find vulnerabilities and be able to remediate those quickly. And of course, limit your exposure to threats and take the right actions. I would advise to use the policies to set up monitoring in Security Center. The last one, Azure Advisor. This is something that I'm always talking about because it's a free service and you have a lot to gain out of it. You will be able to do some optimizations across different areas. And here we are talking about high availability, performance, security, and cost. So what we are doing is basically scanning your Azure resources, and based on that, we give you different advices that you can follow and instruction how you can remediate, what are the recommended actions to take in order to have your workloads optimized. Yeah, and I think that was it from me. I wanted to allocate 10 minutes also for questions, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Simona. We have questions here. I'll start with what's the difference between Service Map and VM Insights, technical and price-wise?
1 second. Can I see the questions anywhere? No. Okay. Yeah. So what's the difference? Okay. Between Service Map and VM Insights. Yes. I'm for the price. I will need to check on that one. But in terms of so Service Map will provide that overview on the VMs and how they are connected to each other. On VM Insights, you will get different dashboards in terms of performance, CPU utilization, and a lot of information at OS level. And a small part is the dependency in VM Insights as well. but Service Map is a lot much more comprehensive than the view in VM Insights.
Okay, and then we have another question here. Can you suppress alarm after hours, like when VMs go to shutdown?
Yeah, I will need to double check that. I think right now you are available. You have the option to do that. So I know that we recently added different option for suppression. So I think that is an option now.
Yeah. Question for me. Based on my understanding is that the update services, which is part of the automation account, is completely free. Can you confirm that, or is it the consumption of the data which is not free, or is it completely free?
Yes, that's a good question. As far as I know, it is free. Okay. I would need to double check to be 100% sure, as yeah, pricing is not really my area. But as far as I know, yeah, it's free.
Yeah. One other question related to update services is that there are a lot of tools like SCCM, with Windows Update Services, and so on and so forth, which can cause issues with the client, update client. Have you any experience on what to do in these scenarios? Because people are actually getting issues related to updates when they have other different scenarios, other update services, I mean, and it can cause confusion within the setup, but there's no logs or anything that say, okay, we can't update this server because of the services is preferred update tool.
I'm not really sure about that. I know that when you're using update management, for example, and you want to install the updates, you have the option to run some example PowerShell scripts before or after the updates. So you can prepare your environment for the updates. So you can control to some extent what's happening there. But yeah. More than that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I've taken a look at that PowerShell scripts, and it is basically checking if the service can connect to the update management service environment, but it really doesn't check if there are another service which is overriding the configuration.
Okay, so, I see. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It might be documented somewhere. I can take a look and see if I can find anything on this. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Simona. This was very interesting to watch. Maybe we can get more demo next time or something like that. There was some questions about if we could get some demos, but I think this was very nice, very informative, and very pleased to get your time on providing this information to us. So thank you, Simona.
Yeah, happy to be here. I will send the presentation and some links to the documentation, and yeah, some links to GitHub repository and how you can leverage different workbooks and what we have out there.
Well, thank you, and
thank you.
See you soon.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.